The starship starward drifted silently through the endless void of space, its sleek silver hull reflecting faint glimmers of distant stars. Inside, Captain Ryan Carter sat in the command chair on the bridge, his eyes scanning the screens and displays before him. The mission was supposed to be routine, mapping uncharted sectors of the galaxy, but something about this particular region felt different. Maybe it was the eerie silence, or maybe it was just boredom creeping in after weeks of monotony. Whatever it was, Ryan couldn't shake the feeling that they were being watched. Beside him, Lieutenant Emma Hayes adjusted her headset and glanced at the radar console. Nothing unusual appeared on the screen, just empty space as far as their sensors could reach. Still, she double-checked the readings, making sure nothing had slipped past their detection systems. She wasn't one to trust things too easily, especially when they were so far from Earth. In another part of the ship, Dr. Laura Bennett leaned over her workstation, her fingers flying across the keyboard. Her long brown hair was tied back in a loose ponytail, and her glasses rested low on her nose as she focused intently on the data scrolling across her monitor. As the ship's astrophysicist, Laura spent most of her time analyzing cosmic phenomena, nebulae, black holes, radiation bursts, but tonight something caught her attention. A faint signal flickered on her screen, barely noticeable amidst the static noise of deep space. At first she thought it might be interference from the ship's own equipment, but as she isolated the frequency, the pattern became clearer. It wasn't random, it was structured. Someone or something was trying to communicate. Laura's heart raced as she replayed the transmission. It repeated every few seconds like a looped message. She adjusted the audio settings until the garbled sounds resolved into distinct tones. Then, using translation software, she converted the tones into text. When the words finally appeared on her screen, she froze. "Do not strike the humans. They will never let you go." She read the sentence again, her mind struggling to process what she was seeing. Who sent this? And who was it meant for? Was it a warning to humanity? Or was it directed at someone else? Grabbing a tablet with the decoded message, Laura hurried to the bridge. The walk seemed longer than usual, each step amplifying the weight of what she'd discovered. By the time she reached the door, her hands were trembling slightly. She took a deep breath and stepped inside. "Captain," she said, her voice steady, despite her nerves. "I think you need to see this." Ryan turned in his chair, his brow furrowing as he noticed the urgency in her tone. "What is it, Doctor?" Laura handed him the tablet, explaining how she'd intercepted the signal. Ryan scanned the text, his expression darkening with each word. He passed the tablet to Emma, who frowned as she read it aloud. "Do not strike the humans. They will never let you go." "What does that even mean?" Emma asked, looking up from the screen. "Who's sending this? And why would anyone warn others about us?" "That's what I'm trying to figure out," Laura replied. "But there's more. I traced the origin of the signal. It's coming from a planet called Silo 7, about 3 light-years away." Ryan stood up, pacing slowly as he processed the information. "Silo 7, isn't that supposed to be uninhabited?" "As far as we know," Laura confirmed. "But clearly someone, or something, is there now. Or at least they were recently." Emma leaned forward, her tactical training kicking in. "If this is some kind of trap, we can't just ignore it. We have protocols for situations like this." Ryan nodded, though his thoughts were racing. On one hand, investigating the source of the signal posed significant risks. They were deep in uncharted territory, far from any support. On the other hand, if this message truly held vital information that could protect Earth, it was their duty to follow up. "We'll convene a meeting," Ryan decided. "Let's bring Alex in too. If this involves alien life, we'll need his expertise." Dr. Alex Monroe joined them shortly after, rubbing sleep from his eyes. As the ship's xenobiologist, Alex specialized in studying extraterrestrial organisms, though he hadn't seen much action during this mission. He listened intently as Ryan explained the situation, his curiosity piqued by the mysterious message. "This could be huge," Alex said once they finished. If we're dealing with intelligent life, this could be our chance to make contact, but if it's a threat, it's both, Ryan interrupted. That's why we need to tread carefully. For all we know, this could be a setup, or it could be genuine. Either way, we can't turn away. The group debated their options late into the night. Some argued they should report the signal to Earth Command immediately and wait for orders. Others believed they had a responsibility to investigate firsthand. In the end, Ryan made the call. They would set a course for Xylo 7. As the Starward adjusted its trajectory, tension filled the air. No one spoke much during the journey, each crew member lost in their own thoughts. Laura pored over the signal, again and again, searching for hidden meanings or clues. Emma ran simulations, preparing for every possible scenario. Alex reviewed files on known alien species, hoping to find parallels that might help them understand what they were walking into. And Ryan? He stared out the viewport, gazing at the endless expanse of stars. 3 days later, the planet came into view. Xylo 7 was unlike anything they'd seen before. Its surface shimmered faintly, bathed in the dim glow of a dying sun. Towering crystalline structures jutted out of the ground like jagged teeth, casting long shadows across the barren landscape. There were no signs of vegetation, no bodies of water, just an endless expanse of gray and silver. It looks dead, Emma remarked as she studied the scans. No atmosphere, no heat signatures. Are we sure this is where the signal came from? The coordinates match perfectly, Laura assured her. Whatever sent the message is down there. Ryan gave the order to prepare for landing. A small team would descend to the surface while the rest of the crew remained aboard the Starward, ready to provide backup if needed. Ryan chose Laura and Alex to accompany him, knowing their skills would be invaluable. Emma stayed behind, coordinating communications and keeping watch for any potential threats. As the shuttle descended through the thin atmosphere, the trio braced themselves for whatever awaited them below. When they touched down near one of the larger crystal formations, the silence was deafening. The only sound was the hum of their suits' life support systems. Stepping onto the surface, Ryan scanned the area with his rifle raised. Laura carried a portable scanner, while Alex held a sample kit, eager to collect anything that might shed light on the planet's history. The crystals loomed above them, refracting the weak sunlight into dazzling patterns. It was beautiful and unsettling. They hadn't gone far when movement caught their eye. Small drones, no bigger than a human head, hovered silently around the base of the nearest structure. Their metallic surfaces gleamed dully in the twilight, and their red lenses glowed ominously as they tracked the intruders. "Stay calm," Ryan whispered, lowering his weapon slightly. "Let's see what they do." One of the drones approached, hovering inches from Laura's face. Before anyone could react, it emitted a soft chime, followed by a familiar phrase broadcast directly into their helmets. "Do not strike the humans. They will never let you go." The team exchanged uneasy glances. Whatever these machines were, they weren't hostile. At least not yet. But their presence confirmed one thing. They weren't alone on Xylo 7. Ryan gestured for the others to follow him toward the largest crystal formation. As they drew closer, they noticed intricate carvings etched into its surface, symbols and patterns that seemed almost organic in design. Laura ran her gloved hand over the markings, marveling at their complexity. "These look like language," she murmured. "But not any language I've ever seen." Alex knelt beside her, examining the symbols closely. Could be some kind of code or maybe instructions. Before they could delve deeper, the ground beneath them trembled slightly. Dust rose into the air as a section of the crystal wall slid open, revealing a dark passageway leading underground. The drones moved forward, hovering expectantly at the entrance. Ryan hesitated, weighing the risks. Entering an unknown structure on an alien planet was dangerous, but turning back now felt like giving up. After a moment, he nodded to the others. "Let's go," he said firmly. "Stay alert." With weapons drawn and scanners active, the team ventured into the darkness, unsure of what awaited them, but certain that answers lay ahead. The passageway was narrow and dimly lit by faint pulsating lights embedded in the walls. The air inside felt cooler than outside, carrying a metallic tang that made Laura wrinkle her nose beneath her helmet. The drones hovered ahead of them, their red lenses casting eerie reflections on the smooth, glass-like surfaces of the corridor. Ryan kept his rifle at the ready, his eyes darting between the drones and the shadows around them. "Do you think these things are guiding us?" Alex whispered, his voice low but audible over the comms. "Maybe," Ryan replied. "Or they're just watching us to see what we'll do." Laura didn't say anything. She was too busy scanning the walls with her portable device, trying to make sense of the glowing symbols etched into the surface. They seemed to shift slightly as she passed, almost as if they were alive. "These markings, they're not random," she said finally. "They look like some kind of narrative, like a story." "A story about what?" Alex asked, peering over her shoulder. "I don't know yet, but it's definitely intentional. Someone, or something, put a lot of effort into this." As they moved deeper into the structure, the corridor widened into a massive chamber. The ceiling soared high above them, disappearing into darkness while the floor stretched out in all directions, lined with rows of towering crystalline pillars. Each pillar emitted a soft glow, bathing the room in hues of blue and green. In the center of the chamber stood a large circular platform surrounded by intricate carvings that matched the ones they'd seen earlier. "This place is incredible," Alex murmured, his voice filled with awe. He reached out to touch one of the pillars, only for Ryan to grab his arm. "Don't touch anything until we know what it does," Ryan warned. "We don't want to trigger something we can't handle." Alex nodded sheepishly and stepped back. Meanwhile, Laura approached the central platform cautiously. It looked like some kind of control console, its surface covered in more of the glowing symbols. A faint hum emanated from it, growing louder as she drew closer. "Ryan, I think this might be important," she called out, gesturing for him to join her. Together they examined the platform, searching for any obvious switches or buttons. Instead, they found a series of indentations, shaped like the symbols they'd been seeing, everywhere. "These must be controls," Laura said, but without knowing how they work. Before she could finish her thought, one of the drones floated closer and hovered directly above the platform. Its red lens blinked rapidly, and then, without warning, the entire chamber lit up. The pillars glowed brighter, and the carvings along the walls began to shimmer, projecting holographic images into the air. The team stumbled back in shock as the holograms came to life around them. At first the images were chaotic, a jumble of shapes and colors, but soon they coalesced into coherent scenes. What they saw left them speechless. The holograms depicted battles. Massive fleets of alien ships clashed in space, firing beams of energy and missiles that exploded in brilliant bursts of light. Planets crumbled under bombardment, their surfaces reduced to ash. And in the midst of it all were humans, or at least humanoid figures wearing primitive spacesuits and wielding crude weapons. "What is this?" Alex breathed, staring at the unfolding drama. "It's a war," Ryan said grimly. "But why? Are humans involved? We've barely scratched the surface of space exploration." Laura shook her head. "That's not Earth's fleet. These ships, they're ancient. Look at the designs, they're nothing like ours. This has to be from thousands of years ago." The holograms shifted again, showing close-ups of the human figures. Despite their rudimentary gear, they fought with startling ferocity. Even when outnumbered, they refused to retreat, using whatever resources they had to turn the tide of battle. One scene showed a group of humans boarding an enemy ship, disabling it from within. Another showed them adapting captured technology to create makeshift defenses. "They're relentless," Emma commented over the comms. Though she wasn't physically present, Ryan had patched her into their feed so she could monitor their progress. "It's like they won't stop no matter what." "That's not possible," Alex argued. "Humans aren't built for warfare like this. Not on this scale. Not against aliens who are obviously more advanced." "Tell that to whoever made this recording," Ryan muttered. The holograms continued, shifting to show the aftermath of the battles. Alien worlds lay in ruins, their populations decimated. Survivors fled in terror, abandoning their homes. And, through it all, the human figures pressed forward, unyielding and determined. Then abruptly the images changed. The focus shifted to a new race, a tall, slender species with elongated limbs and luminous skin. Their ships were sleek and elegant, far superior to anything the humans possessed. Yet when they confronted the humans, they faltered. Entire squadrons of their vessels were destroyed in moments. Colonies they tried to establish were overrun. Their attempts to negotiate ended in failure. They couldn't win, Laura said softly. No matter what they did, they couldn't beat the humans. The final hologram showed the aliens retreating, leaving behind scorched planets and shattered fleets. As the last of their ships disappeared into the void, the chamber fell silent once more. The glowing symbols dimmed, and the drones returned to their passive state, hovering quietly near the platform. Ryan let out a slow breath, trying to process what they'd just witnessed. So, what does this mean? Are these aliens the ones who sent the warning? It's possible, Laura replied. Whoever created this chamber wanted to document what happened, maybe as a lesson or a cautionary tale. But why warn others about us? Alex asked. If those aliens lost to humans, why not just wipe us out instead of broadcasting our existence? Because they couldn't, Ryan answered. That's the point. Humans didn't give them a chance to recover. They kept coming, kept fighting, until the aliens had no choice but to run. Laura nodded thoughtfully. And now, whoever found this message knows exactly what will happen if they try to attack Earth. A sudden rumble interrupted their conversation. The ground beneath their feet trembled and the lights in the chamber flickered. One of the drones emitted a sharp chime, its red lens blinking erratically. Something's wrong, Ryan said, raising his rifle again. Let's get out of here. They turned to leave, but the passageway they'd entered through was sealed shut. The walls of the chamber began to shift, closing in around them. Panic set in as they realized they were trapped. Laura, can you reopen the door? Ryan shouted, his voice tense. I'm trying, she replied, frantically working the controls on the platform. The symbols glowed brighter, responding to her input, but nothing happened. It's not responding. Alex, look for another exit, Ryan ordered. Alex sprinted toward the edge of the chamber, scanning the walls for any sign of an opening. Meanwhile, Ryan kept watch on the drones, which now circled them faster, their chimes growing louder. Just as the walls began to press dangerously close, Laura let out a triumphant cry. Got it, she exclaimed, slamming her palm down on a newly activated panel. With a loud hiss, the sealed passageway reopened, revealing the path back to the surface. Move, Ryan barked, ushering the others ahead of him. They ran as fast as their suits allowed, the trembling ground threatening to throw them off balance. Behind them, the chamber collapsed in on itself, the glowing pillars shattering into fragments of light. When they emerged back onto the surface, the cold wind hit them like a slap. The shuttle was still where they'd left it, untouched, but the sky above was darkening ominously. Thick clouds gathered overhead, crackling with electrical energy. We need to go, now, Ryan said, climbing aboard the shuttle. Laura and Alex followed, strapping themselves in as the engines roared to life. As they lifted off, a bolt of lightning struck the ground where they'd been standing moments before. Back aboard, the starward, Emma greeted them with relief. What happened down there? She demanded, eyeing their disheveled appearance. Ryan summarized everything they'd seen, the holograms, the battles, the collapse of the chamber. By the time he finished, Emma's face was pale. So we're dealing with a civilization that learned the hard way not to mess with humans, she said slowly. And now someone else knows about it too. Exactly, Ryan confirmed. Which means we need to figure out who sent that signal, and why. For the rest of the day, the crew worked tirelessly to analyze the data Laura had collected. The symbols from the chamber proved difficult to decode, but she managed to isolate a few key phrases. One stood out in particular. The Xylons remember. Xylons, Alex repeated. Is that the name of the aliens in the holograms? It has to be, Laura said. Whoever built that chamber must have been part of their civilization. But they're gone now, Ryan pointed out. So, who's operating? Those drones? And why send a warning about humanity? As night fell aboard the Starward, the questions lingered unanswered. The crew took turns monitoring the planet below, watching for any signs of activity. So far, the drones hadn't moved from their positions near the crystal structures. Whatever intelligence controlled them seemed content to wait. For now. Ryan sat alone on the observation deck, staring out at the stars. The weight of what they'd discovered pressed heavily on his shoulders. Humanity wasn't just a fledgling species exploring the cosmos, it was a force capable of toppling empires. That knowledge brought both pride and fear. Somewhere out there, other civilizations were watching and judging. Unbeknownst to the crew, their presence on Xylos, the Starward drifted silently in orbit around Xylos 7, its crew still reeling from the discoveries they'd made on the planet below. Captain Ryan Carter sat in the command chair on the bridge, staring at the holographic display of the alien chamber's symbols. Laura had managed to decode fragments of the message, but much of it remained a mystery. One phrase kept repeating in his mind. The Xylons remember. What did it mean? And why would an extinct civilization leave behind such a cryptic warning? Lieutenant Emma Hayes stood nearby, her eyes fixed on the radar console as she monitored the surrounding space. So far, everything seemed quiet. Too quiet. The sensors hadn't picked up any unusual activity since their arrival, but Emma couldn't shake the feeling that they were being watched. She adjusted the settings again, just to be sure. Dr. Alex Monroe and Laura Bennett worked together in the science lab, poring over the data they'd collected during their mission to the surface. Alex carefully examined samples of the crystalline material they'd brought back while Laura focused on translating more of the symbols. Every new piece of information raised more questions than answers. "We're missing something," Laura said, frustration creeping into her voice. "These symbols, they're not just instructions or warnings, they're telling a story." "A story about what?" Alex asked, looking up from his microscope. "Survival," Laura replied after a pause. The Xylons weren't just documenting their defeat by humans. They were trying to explain why it happened. "Look at this part here." She pointed to a sequence of symbols on her tablet. "It talks about adaptation, resilience, and determination. Humans didn't win because we were stronger or smarter. We won because we refused to give up." Alex frowned. "That doesn't make sense. How could primitive humans overpower an advanced alien race?" "It wasn't brute force," Laura explained. "It was strategy, creativity. Even when they were outnumbered, they found ways to fight back. They used whatever tools they had, even the enemy's own technology, to turn the tide." Emma's voice crackled over the comm system, interrupting their conversation. "Captain, you need to see this." Ryan hurried to the tactical station, where Emma was studying a series of blips on the radar screen. "What is it?" I thought. "It was interference at first," Emma said, her tone tense. "But these readings are real, multiple ships closing in fast." "How many?" Ryan asked, already moving toward the main viewport. "At least 20, Emma replied. "They'll be within range in less than 10 minutes. Ryan's jaw tightened. "Raise shields and prepare for evasive maneuvers. Alert the crew, we might have company." As the alarms blared throughout the ship, the crew sprang into action. Laura and Alex joined Ryan on the bridge, watching anxiously as the unidentified vessels appeared on the horizon. Sleek and angular, they bristled with weapons and moved with unnatural precision. Whoever or whatever they were, they clearly meant business. "They're hailing us," Emma reported, adjusting the communications panel. "Audio only." "Put it through," Ryan ordered. A distorted voice filled the bridge, speaking in halting, broken English. "You, trespassers, leave now, or face destruction." Ryan exchanged glances with his team. "This is Captain Ryan Carter of the Earth vessel Starward. We mean no harm. We were investigating a signal originating from the planet below." There was a long pause before the voice responded. "Signal irrelevant. Humans forbidden here. Leave immediately." Emma leaned closer to Ryan. "Do we know who these guys are?" Ryan shook his head. "Not yet, but I'm guessing they're the ones who intercepted the warning and decided to investigate for themselves." Laura stepped forward. Maybe we can reason with them. If they saw the same message we did, they might understand we're not looking for trouble. Ryan nodded. Worth a shot. Turning back to the comm system, he spoke calmly but firmly. We respect your territory, but we need to understand the signal. It concerns humanity's safety. Can we discuss this peacefully? The response was immediate and hostile. A beam of energy shot past the starward, narrowly missing its hull. The impact rattled the ship, throwing several crew members off balance. They're firing! Emma shouted, her fingers flying across the controls. Shields are holding for now. Ryan clenched his fists. Evasive maneuvers. Keep us out of their line of fire. The starward banked sharply, weaving through the attacker's barrage. Despite its size, the ship was surprisingly agile, thanks to upgrades installed before their mission. Still, outrunning 20 heavily armed vessels wasn't going to be easy. They're spreading out, Emma warned. Trying to flank us. Target their engines, Ryan commanded. Disable, don't destroy. We don't want to escalate this further. Emma complied, locking onto one of the lead ships and firing a concentrated burst of plasma. The shot struck true, crippling the vessel's propulsion system. It drifted away, leaving a trail of sparks behind. Nice shot, Ryan said, allowing himself a brief moment of satisfaction. But the victory was short-lived. 2 more ships swooped in, launching volleys of missiles that forced the starward to dive sharply. The ship shuddered under the strain and warning lights flashed across the bridge. We can't keep this up forever, Emma said grimly. Their numbers are too great. Ryan glanced at Laura and Alex. Any ideas? Laura hesitated, then spoke up. The drones. Back on Xylos 7, they seemed protective of the site. Maybe they'll intervene if the planet comes under attack. It's a long shot, Alex admitted. But it's all we've got. Ryan nodded. Emma, plot a course back toward the planet. Let's see if our new friends decide to follow. The starward accelerated, heading straight for Xylos 7. Sure enough, the enemy fleet gave chase, their weapons blazing. As they approached the surface, Ryan noticed movement among the crystal structures. The drones, which had been dormant since their earlier visit, began to rise into the air, forming a defensive perimeter around the site. Looks like your theory might be right, Emma said, a hint of hope in her voice. One of the attacking ships fired a missile directly at the crystals. Before it could strike, a swarm of drones intercepted it, detonating the projectile mid-flight. The explosion sent shockwaves rippling through the area, but the drones held their ground. They're defending the site, Laura said, her eyes wide with amazement. But why? Doesn't matter, Ryan replied. Use the distraction to take out as many ships as you can. Emma didn't need to be told twice. With the enemy fleet distracted by the drones, she targeted their weakest points, disabling several more vessels in quick succession. The remaining ships regrouped, clearly unsure how to proceed. This is insane, Alex muttered. Whoever these guys are, they're not used to losing. They will beat today, Ryan said firmly. Keep the pressure on. The battle raged on, with the starward using every trick in its arsenal to stay ahead. Laura assisted by analyzing the enemy ship's movements, predicting their next attacks, and helping Emma anticipate their strategies. Alex contributed by repurposing mining equipment to create improvised EMP devices, which temporarily disabled several ships' systems. Finally, after what felt like hours, the enemy fleet began to retreat. One by one, the remaining ships broke formation and vanished into hyperspace, leaving the starward battered but victorious. Well, Emma said, exhaling deeply as the last ship disappeared. That was fun. Ryan allowed himself a small smile. Good work, everyone, but we're not done yet. We still don't know who those guys were or why they attacked us. Laura nodded. And we still have unanswered questions about the Xylons. Whatever secrets are buried on that planet, they're worth protecting. Ryan turned to face his crew. For now, let's secure the area and gather as much intel as we can. If those ships come back, we need to be ready. As the starward settled into a stable orbit above Xylos 7, the crew prepared for their next move. They had survived their first encounter with an unknown adversary, but they knew it wouldn't be their last. Somewhere out there, other civilizations were listening to the same warning. And sooner or later, humanity would have to face the consequences of its reputation. Unbeknownst to the crew, however, the Krill, the species they had just fought, were already planning their next move. Their leader, a ruthless commander named Zarn, vowed to learn everything he could about the humans. If they truly were as dangerous as the Xylon message claimed, then conquering them would require more than brute force. It would take cunning, patience, and perhaps even deception. For now, though, the Starward remained vigilant, its crew united by a shared sense of purpose. Humanity's future in the stars depended on their actions, and they were determined not to fail. The Starward hovered silently in orbit above Xylos 7, its crew exhausted but alert. The battle with the mysterious fleet had left the ship battered, and repairs were underway. Sparks flew in the engineering bay as technicians worked tirelessly to patch up damaged systems. On the bridge, Captain Ryan Carter sat in his command chair, his face lined with fatigue but his eyes sharp and focused. He knew their victory was only temporary. Whoever those ships belonged to, they would be back, and next time they might not retreat so easily. Lieutenant Emma Hayes stood nearby, her fingers flying across the tactical console as she reviewed the data from the fight. "Their technology is advanced," she said, glancing at Ryan, "but it's not flawless. We exploited some weaknesses, but if they adapt, we'll need more than luck to survive." Ryan nodded. "We need answers, starting with who they are and why they attacked us." Dr. Laura Bennett entered the bridge, holding a tablet filled with fresh translations of the symbols from the alien chamber. Her expression was a mix of excitement and concern. "I think I've found something," she said, handing the tablet to Ryan. "These symbols, they're not just about the Xylons. They mention another species, the Krill." "The Krill?" Ryan repeated, his brow furrowing. "Is that who attacked us?" "It matches," Laura confirmed. "According to this, the Krill are predators. They conquer weaker civilizations, strip them of resources, and enslave their populations. The Xylons encountered them centuries ago and barely survived." Emma crossed her arms. "So these guys aren't just hostile. They're scavengers, and now they've set their sights on Earth." Ryan's jaw tightened. "If they're planning an invasion, we need to warn Earth Command immediately." Before anyone could respond, alarms blared across the ship. Emma spun toward the radar screen, her eyes widening. "Captain, we've got company again. This time it's bigger." Ryan stood up, his heart pounding. "How many?" "Over 50 ships," Emma replied grimly, "and they're heading straight for us." The crew scrambled into action. Repairs were abandoned as everyone took their positions. Ryan barked orders, his voice calm but firm. "Raise shields, prepare all weapons. Emma, target their lead ship. If we can take out their commander, the rest might fall into disarray." As the enemy fleet approached, the Starward braced for impact. The Krill ships formed a tight formation, their sleek hulls gleaming menacingly in the dim light of Xylos 7's dying sun. Suddenly, a massive vessel emerged from the center of the fleet, a colossal warship nearly twice the size of the Starward. Its surface bristled with cannons and turrets, and its front section housed what looked like a devastating energy weapon. "That's new," Alex muttered, his voice tinged with dread. He had joined the others on the bridge, clutching a portable scanner. "Whatever that thing is, it's packing enough firepower to vaporize us in one shot." Ryan clenched his fists. "We need to disable it before it gets a chance to fire." The Krill fleet opened fire, unleashing a barrage of missiles and energy beams. The Starward rocked violently under the assault, forcing the crew to hold on to their stations. Emma worked furiously to evade the attacks, weaving the ship through the chaos with incredible precision. "We can't keep dodging forever." Emma shouted over the noise. "They're too fast." Laura stepped forward, her mind racing. "What if we use the drones again? They protected the site before. They might help us now." Ryan hesitated. "It's risky. If the Krill realize we're relying on the drones, they'll focus their fire on the planet. We can't let that happen." "I have an idea," Alex said suddenly. "Remember those EMP devices I rigged earlier? What if we modify them to target their communications? If we can disrupt their coordination, it'll give us an opening. Ryan nodded. Do it. Quickly. Alex sprinted to the science lab, where he began reconfiguring the EMP devices. Meanwhile, Laura assisted Emma by analyzing the Krill ship's movements, searching for patterns or vulnerabilities. The enemy fleet was relentless, their attacks growing more aggressive with each passing minute. Finally, Alex returned with the modified EMP device. It's ready, he said, handing it to Emma. But we'll need to get close to deploy it. Ryan turned to Emma. Can you get us within range? Emma grinned tightly. Hold on to something. The Starward surged, forward, diving straight into the heart of the Krill fleet. Missiles streaked past, narrowly missing the ship as Emma maneuvered with reckless abandon. The crew held their breath as the massive warship loomed closer, its energy weapon charging ominously. Now, Ryan shouted. Emma activated the EMP device, launching it directly at the warship's command center. A brilliant flash of light engulfed the vessel, followed by a deafening silence. For a moment, everything stopped. Then chaos erupted among the Krill fleet. Without their central command, the ships began firing wildly, colliding with each other in confusion. Yes, Alex exclaimed, pumping his fist. It worked. Don't celebrate yet, Ryan warned. We still have dozens of ships to deal with. Using the disarray to their advantage, Emma targeted the scattered vessels, disabling as many as possible while avoiding friendly fire. The Starward danced through the battlefield, its crew working together like a well-oiled machine. Every shot counted, every move mattered. But just as victory seemed within reach, the warship's energy weapon flared back to life. The EMP had disrupted its systems temporarily, but not permanently. A massive beam of blue light shot toward the Starward, striking its shields with terrifying force. The entire ship shuddered, and warning lights flashed across the bridge. Shields. At 30%, Emma yelled, her voice strained. One more hit like that and we're done. Ryan's mind raced. They couldn't withstand another direct attack. Desperation fueled his thoughts. Laura, any ideas? Laura stared at her tablet, her fingers trembling as she scrolled through the decoded symbols. Then her eyes widened. The crystals. The Xylon chamber mentioned a failsafe, a way to activate the drones remotely. If we can trigger it, the drones might overwhelm the fleet. How do we do that? Ryan asked urgently. There's a sequence here, Laura explained, pointing to the symbols. We need to transmit it from the planet's surface. Ryan didn't hesitate. Emma, keep them busy. Alex and I will head down there. But Captain, Emma started to protest. No time to argue, Ryan interrupted. We're out of options. Minutes later, Ryan and Alex descended to the surface of Xylos 7 aboard a small shuttle. The crystalline structures loomed ominously around them, their glow dimmed by the ongoing battle in orbit. As they landed near the chamber, they noticed the drones hovering anxiously, as if sensing the urgency of the situation. This way, Ryan said, leading the way inside. The chamber was largely intact, though cracks marred its walls from the earlier collapse. Ryan and Alex hurried to the central platform, where Laura's instructions guided them step by step. Enter the sequence exactly as it's written. Laura's voice crackled over the comm system. One mistake and it won't work. Ryan typed the symbols carefully, his hands steady despite the tension. When he finished, the platform hummed to life, glowing brighter with each passing second. Outside, the drones began to stir, rising into the air in synchronized formation. It's working, Alex exclaimed, watching through the entrance as the drones swarmed upward, heading straight for the Krill fleet. Back aboard the Starward, Emma cheered as the drones engaged the enemy. Ships, their sheer numbers overwhelmed the Krill, forcing them to retreat in disarray. The massive warship fired one last desperate shot before vanishing into hyperspace, leaving behind a trail of debris. When the dust settled, the battlefield was eerily quiet. The Krill fleet was gone, and the drones returned to their positions around the crystal structures as if nothing had happened. Well, Emma said, slumping into her chair, that was insane. Ryan and Alex returned to the ship shortly after, greeted by cheers from the crew. Despite their exhaustion, there was a sense of triumph in the air. They had faced overwhelming odds, and won. But Ryan knew better than to celebrate too soon. "This isn't over," he said, addressing his team. "The krill will regroup, and when they come back, they'll be stronger. We need to prepare Earth for what's coming." Laura nodded. "And we need to understand more about the Xylons. Whatever secrets they left behind could be the key to protecting humanity." As the Starward set a course for Earth, the crew reflected on what they'd learned. Humanity was no longer an isolated species exploring the stars. It was a player in a vast, dangerous game. The warning they had uncovered was both a blessing and a curse. It told the universe to fear humans, but it also painted a target on their backs. Far away, in the depths of space, Commander Zarn of the Krill watched the footage of the battle with cold determination. His fleet had been humiliated, but he refused to admit defeat. Humans were resourceful, yes, but they were also vulnerable. All it would take was the right strategy to bring them to their knees. For now, Zarn vowed to study his enemies carefully, to learn their strengths, exploit their weaknesses, and strike when they least expected it. The humans thought they had won, but Zarn knew better. War was coming, and the galaxy would tremble at its fury. The journey back to Earth was tense but quiet. The Starward drifted through the vast emptiness of space, its crew working tirelessly to repair the damage from their encounter with the krill. Though they had survived, the scars of battle remained, both on the ship and in the minds of those aboard. Captain Ryan Carter spent most of his time pacing the bridge, replaying the events at Xylos 7 over and over in his mind. Every decision, every move they'd made, felt heavier now that they knew what was at stake. Lieutenant Emma Hayes sat at her tactical station, running simulations of potential future battles against the krill. Her fingers moved quickly across the controls, adjusting variables and testing strategies. No matter how many scenarios she ran, the outcome always came down to one thing: humanity's ability to adapt. "They're strong," she muttered to herself, "but so are we." Dr. Laura Bennett stayed glued to her workstation, analyzing the data they had collected from the alien chamber. She had managed to decode more of the Xylon symbols, uncovering fragments of their history and their struggles. One passage stood out to her. "To survive is to endure. To endure is to evolve." It wasn't just a description of the Xylons. It felt like a message meant for humanity. Dr. Alex Monroe joined Laura in the lab, peering over her shoulder as she worked. "So what you're saying is this whole thing is about resilience?" he asked, scratching his head. "Exactly," Laura replied. "The Xylons learned the hard way that humans don't give up. They fought until they couldn't fight anymore, and even then, they found ways to keep going. That's why the krill see us as a threat. Because if they start something with us, we'll never stop coming after them." Alex frowned. "But does that make us dangerous or just stubborn?" "Both," Laura said simply. "And right now, it's our best weapon." When the Starward finally arrived back at Earth, the crew was greeted by officials from Earth Command. News of their discovery, and the krill's aggression, had spread quickly, and preparations were already underway to defend against a potential invasion. Ryan reported directly to General Samantha Cole, a stern but fair leader who wasted no time getting to the point. "You're telling me there's an alien species out there planning to attack Earth?" General Cole asked, her sharp eyes locked on Ryan. "Yes, ma'am," Ryan confirmed. "The krill, they're predators. They conquer weaker civilizations and strip them of resources. Based on what we've seen, they won't hesitate to do the same to us." "And you believe this warning from the Xylons is true?" she pressed. Ryan glanced at Laura, who nodded encouragingly. "It's not just a warning. It's a lesson," he explained. "The Xylons underestimated humanity once, and it cost them everything. Now the krill know what we're capable of, but instead of backing off, they're preparing to strike first." General Cole leaned back in her chair, her expression thoughtful. "Then we need to be ready. What do you recommend?" Ryan took a deep breath. We fortify our colonies near the edge of known space, set up early warning systems, and we prepare our fleet, not just to defend but to counterattack. If the Krill want to fight, we'll give them one. General Cole nodded. Permission granted. You have full authority to coordinate with Earth Command. But remember this. Failure isn't an option. In the weeks that followed, humanity mobilized like never before. Ships were retrofitted with advanced weaponry, inspired by the designs Laura and Alex had studied during their mission. Engineers worked around the clock to improve shield technology and develop new defenses. Meanwhile, intelligence officers scoured the stars, searching for any sign of the Krill's next move. Laura and Alex continued their research, delving deeper into the Xylon archives. They discovered blueprints for ancient weapons and defense systems, some of which could be adapted for modern use. This is incredible, Alex said, holding up a schematic of what appeared to be a plasma cannon. If we can replicate this, it could turn the tide of any battle. We should focus on the drones too, Laura added. Their ability to swarm and overwhelm enemies is exactly what we need. If we can build something similar, it'll buy us time, Alex finished. Time to figure out how to win. As preparations continued, Ryan traveled between Earth and its outer colonies, rallying troops and boosting morale. He spoke to soldiers, scientists, and civilians alike, reminding them of what was at stake. This isn't just about survival, he told a group of recruits during one speech. It's about proving that humanity won't back down. No matter how big the challenge, no matter how tough the odds, we will stand our ground. His words resonated deeply. People began referring to the conflict as the Stand, a testament to humanity's determination to protect itself. Posters went up in cities and space stations, bearing slogans like, "Never surrender," and "Earth will prevail." Even children played games pretending to be heroes defending their planet from alien invaders. But despite the unity and resolve, fear lingered beneath the surface. Rumors spread about the Krill's strength and ruthlessness. Some feared that Earth's efforts wouldn't be enough, that the Krill would sweep in and crush them without mercy. Emma dealt with these fears in her own way. She trained tirelessly, honing her skills as a tactical officer and teaching others how to outmaneuver larger, more powerful foes. Fear doesn't help anyone, she told a young cadet who admitted to being scared. Use it. Let it push you to work harder, think smarter, and fight better. That's how we'll win. Months passed and the tension grew unbearable. Then one day, the unthinkable happened. A distress signal came in from a human colony near the edge of known space. The transmission was garbled, but the message was clear. The Krill had arrived. Ryan and his crew scrambled to action. The Starward launched immediately, accompanied by a small fleet of newly upgraded ships. When they reached the colony, the scene was devastating. Buildings lay in ruins, fires burned unchecked, and survivors huddled together in makeshift shelters. The Krill had struck swiftly and mercilessly, leaving destruction in their wake. "They're testing us," Ryan said grimly as he surveyed the damage, "seeing how we respond." "Well, let's show them," Emma replied, her voice cold with anger. "Let's make sure they regret ever setting foot here." The crew devised a plan. Using intel gathered from the colony's surveillance systems, they identified the location of the Krill's command ship, a massive vessel orbiting the planet. If they could disable it, they could cripple the entire operation. Under cover of darkness, the Starward and its fleet approached the Krill forces. The enemy ships were scattered, focusing on finishing their assault on the colony. Taking advantage of the chaos, Ryan ordered a stealthy advance. "Stay low and quiet," he instructed. "We hit them hard and fast. No hesitation." When they reached the command ship, Emma unleashed a barrage of EMP missiles, disabling its shields and crippling its weapon systems. The rest of the fleet followed suit, targeting key areas of the vessel while avoiding civilian casualties below. Inside the command ship, Commander Zarn watched the attack unfold with growing fury. His forces had been caught off guard, and now they were paying the price. "Retreat," he barked, ordering his remaining ships to regroup. We'll return stronger. As the Krill fled, the humans secured their victory, but at a heavy cost. The colony was in ruins and countless lives had been lost. Still, the survivors cheered when the Starward landed, grateful for the rescue. Back on Earth, news of the successful counterattack spread quickly. Humanity celebrated its first real victory against the Krill, but Ryan knew better than to relax. This is only the beginning, he warned his team. The Krill won't stop until they've destroyed us, or we've destroyed them. Laura nodded. And we still have so much to learn. About the Xylons, about ourselves, about what it truly means to endure. As the crew prepared for whatever came next, they did so with a renewed sense of purpose. Humanity might have been outnumbered and outgunned, but they had something the Krill didn't: heart. And as long as they refused to give up, they would always find a way to fight back. Far away, Commander Zarn plotted his revenge. The humans had proven themselves to be worthy adversaries, but they were still mortal. All it would take was the right strategy to break their spirit. Until then, he vowed to study them closely, learning their weaknesses and exploiting them at every turn. The galaxy watched and waited, knowing that the clash between humanity and the Krill would shape the future of the stars. For now, the humans had held their ground, but the war was far from over. The victory at the colony near the edge of known space was bittersweet. While humanity had proven it could stand against the Krill, the cost had been devastating. Entire families had lost their homes, and the scars of destruction would take years to heal. Captain Ryan Carter stood on the bridge of the Starward, staring out at the stars as the ship made its way back to Earth. His mind replayed the images of the ruined colony, the charred buildings, the frightened faces of survivors, the silence where laughter once echoed. It weighed heavily on him, a reminder that every decision he made carried consequences. Lieutenant Emma Hayes sat quietly at her station, reviewing the data from the battle. Her hands moved mechanically across the controls, but her thoughts were elsewhere. She couldn't shake the memory of the Krill ships descending like vultures, targeting civilians with cold efficiency. They're not just fighting to conquer, she muttered under her breath. They're fighting to erase. Dr. Laura Bennett worked tirelessly in the science lab, analyzing every scrap of information they'd gathered during the conflict. The Xylon archives had provided invaluable insights into the Krill's tactics, but there was still so much they didn't know. Laura pored over schematics and decoded messages, searching for anything that might give humanity an edge. If we can understand how they think, she said to Alex one evening, we can predict their moves and stop them. Alex Monroe nodded, though his expression remained troubled. But what if understanding them isn't enough? What if they're too powerful? Laura paused, looking up from her tablet. Then we fight smarter. We adapt. That's what humans do best. Back on Earth, the mood was tense but determined. General Samantha Cole convened a meeting with Ryan and his senior officers to discuss next steps. The room buzzed with activity as holographic maps of the galaxy floated above the table, highlighting key sectors vulnerable to attack. We've fortified our outer colonies, General Cole began, but the Krill will keep coming. They won't stop until they've crushed us or until we crush them. Ryan stepped forward, pointing to a cluster of stars near the edge of Krill-controlled space. If we want to end this, we need to strike at their heart, their homeworld. Cut off their leadership and the rest of their fleet will fall apart. General Cole raised an eyebrow. A direct assault on their homeworld? That's risky. It's necessary, Ryan insisted. Every battle we've fought so far has been defensive. We're always reacting. If we go on the offensive, we'll take control of the war. After a long moment of deliberation, General Cole nodded. Permission granted, but you'll need reinforcements and a solid plan. Preparations for the assault on the Krill homeworld were intense. Engineers worked around the clock to outfit the fleet with cutting-edge technology inspired by the Xylon blueprints. Plasma cannons, EMP devices, and swarm drones became standard equipment on every ship. Meanwhile, intelligence officers analyzed patterns in the Krill's movements, identifying weak points in their defenses. Laura and Alex played a crucial role in the planning process. Using the knowledge they'd gained from the Xylon archives, they devised strategies to exploit the Krill's reliance on centralized command structures. Their leader is their greatest strength, Laura explained during a briefing. But it's also their biggest weakness. Take out Commander Zarn and the rest of the fleet will collapse. Emma took charge of tactical training, drilling pilots, and gunners in simulated combat scenarios. Her drills were grueling, pushing everyone to their limits, but no one complained. They knew what was at stake. Out there, she told her team, there are no second chances. We have to be faster, sharper, and smarter than the Krill. If we hesitate, even for a second, we lose. As the days turned into weeks, the crew of the Starward grew closer than ever. They shared meals, stories, and moments of quiet reflection, knowing that each day together might be their last. Ryan made it a point to speak with every member of the crew, offering words of encouragement and gratitude. This isn't just about winning a war, he said during one such conversation. It's about protecting everything we hold dear. Our families, our freedom, our future. That's worth fighting for. Finally, the day of the assault arrived. The fleet assembled near the edge of Krill space, hidden behind a dense nebula. The tension aboard the Starward was palpable as Ryan addressed the crew over the intercom. Today, we take the fight to the Krill. Today, we show them that humanity doesn't back down. No matter how tough the odds, no matter how fierce the enemy, we will prevail. The fleet emerged from the nebula in perfect formation, catching the Krill completely off guard. Their homeworld loomed ahead, surrounded by layers of defensive satellites and patrol ships. But the humans had come prepared. Swarm drones launched, first, overwhelming the outer defenses and creating gaps for the main fleet to exploit. Inside the command center, Commander Zarn watched the invasion unfold with mounting rage. How did they find us? He demanded, slamming his fist on the console. His advisors scrambled to respond, launching counterattacks and scrambling reinforcements. But the humans were relentless, striking with precision and speed. On the Starward, Emma coordinated the fleet's movements, her voice calm but commanding. Target those satellites. Disable their weapon systems. Keep moving. Don't let them pin us down. The battle raged on, explosions lighting up the void as ships clashed in fiery chaos. Laura monitored the enemy's communications, relaying critical information to Ryan. Zarn's ordering a retreat, she reported. He's trying to regroup. Not happening, Ryan replied. Emma, focus fire on his flagship. We take him out now. With Emma's guidance, the fleet converged on Zarn's command ship, unleashing a barrage of plasma cannons and EMP missiles. The massive vessel buckled under the assault, its shields failing and hull breaches spreading across its surface. Inside, Zarn refused to surrender, shouting orders until the very end. When the final shot struck, the ship exploded in a brilliant flash, taking the Krill commander with it. Without Zarn, the Krill fleet fell into disarray. Ships broke formation, retreating in all directions. The humans pressed their advantage, disabling as many vessels as possible, while sparing those that surrendered. By the time the dust settled, the Krill homeworld lay defenseless, its population shocked into submission. In the aftermath of the battle, Ryan and his crew landed on the Krill homeworld to assess the situation. What they found was sobering. The planet was scarred by centuries of conquest, its resources drained and its people living in fear. Many Krill civilians welcomed the humans, seeing them not as invaders but as liberators. We didn't come here to destroy you, Ryan told a group of Krill leaders during a tense negotiation. We came to stop your attacks on innocent worlds. If you agree to peace, we'll help rebuild what's been lost. The Krill hesitated but ultimately accepted the offer. For the first time in generations, they began to imagine a future free from endless war. Back on Earth, news of the victory sparked celebrations across the globe. Humanity had faced one of the most dangerous threats in its history, and triumphed. But Ryan knew the real victory wasn't in defeating the Krill. It was in proving that humanity could rise above hatred and vengeance to seek a better path. As the Starward returned home, Ryan stood on the observation deck, gazing at the stars. Laura joined him, holding a tablet filled with notes on their journey. You know, she said softly. The Xylons left that warning for a reason. They wanted others to understand what makes humans special, not just our strength, but our resilience, our ability to adapt and grow. Ryan smiled faintly, and maybe that's the legacy we leave behind, not just as warriors, but as builders, as survivors. The galaxy watched and waited, knowing that humanity's story was only beginning. Far beyond the stars, other civilizations listened to the echoes of the Xylon message. Do not strike. The humans, they will never let you go. Those words no longer felt like a threat. Instead, they carried a promise, a testament to humanity's indomitable spirit and unyielding determination to shape its own destiny. For now, peace reigned. But Ryan and his crew knew better than to grow complacent. The universe was vast, filled with wonders and dangers yet unseen, and wherever the next challenge arose, humanity would face it head-on, with courage, creativity, and an unwavering belief in the power of hope.